Okay, so today I'm going to be taking you guys through some After Effects. Let's dive straight on in. Okay, so this is After Effects. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just click on here, make a new composition. So we're going to call this What's in the Bag? Ellipsis. And we're going to go Luke Dre, because that's who this is for. I did a video with Luke Dre not too long ago. And we're just going to do a nice little opening graphic for the video that he's featured in. So 10 seconds, just about the right time for an ident. I'm going to do it in 4K because we shoot all of our videos in 4K, but we usually downscale it to HD just because it works well for us in the edit. We can scale in and things like that. I'm sure some of you have noticed. Okay, so all my settings here look okay, so I'm just going to, okay then. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think of a background that I would like to use. Before we do that, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll make some bins, because you can never have too many bins. I like being fairly organized. So have comps. Comps is obviously, comps is where I put my compositions, just so they've got somewhere to go. So if I need to file them away, I can. Assets is usually where things like still images or just external assets, things that I would bring in. Say like you've got a watermark that you just drag and drop onto your videos. I'd put that in the assets bin. There is one folder that I probably would make, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to make it on its own. So I just right click on my timeline down here and I go to new, and then I go to solid. Blue works for now. Let's just use that as a starting point. And it did. Look, I've now got a solids bin, and in here is the blue that I just made. I'm just going to lock that off so I can't do anything with it. Can't grab it, can't move it around. And then I'm going to go to text, because this is a title graphic. I've got my font all ready to go, Gotham, and we're going to go, what's in the bag? Ellipsis. Now, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing for this graphic. I'm just laying it all out so I can kind of see what I've got to work with, and then we'll figure it all out as we go. Now I'm just going to make sure it's all centered. So you just click on here and you got aligned, you got a line horizontally, and you got a line vertically. So now that's perfectly centered. If you really need to check, you can click on this little bit here, go to title action safe, and then it's got a little crosshair. You can kind of see where it lines up. You've also got other options for this, such as proportional grid. Very useful for just kind of measuring out where you need something in frame. Yeah. I suppose I could just keep it simple, and I could go to the effects and presets menu. It usually takes a little bit of time to load because there's so many, as you can see, there's quite a lot of folders in here just full of things that you can use. Go to animation presets, then I'll go to text, I'll go to animate in. A lot of really useful things for you to try out here. It's literally as simple as you just double click on it while you've got your text highlighted, and then you can just like kind of see what it does. And then if you like it, you can then change it. If you hit the U button on your keyboard, it'll open up these where the keyframes are. The keyframe is like the A to B of where it starts and where it finishes in terms of animation. And simply like because it ends here, look, on this little diamond shape here. Starts here, comes down, 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 and ends around about here. Now if I wanted this to finish in the space of a second, all I have to do is drag this over to here, and then it'll be that quick. In the space of a second. Feels like a very long second, but but I'm not happy with the way this animation looks, so I'm just going to Control Z, and as you can see, it's just removed it. So it's that simple. It's just trial and error, just double click, find one that works for you, very simple. The presets are there for you to have fun with, really, and to make your life easier. Okay, so I already kind of know which one I would like. I kind of want like a typewriter one. So I wonder, typewriter. So we'll just double click that. As you can see, it's already showing me that the keyframes are there because I already had the U button pressed from before. So I'm just going to hit U on here again, get these keyframes revealed, and just kind of scroll along, see how quick it is. Okay, that's good. Okay, it's a bit slow, so I'm just going to drag this up to about here. Okay, that's good. Maybe like a second and a half. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little cheat that I like to do on everything, which is to, you know, instead of it just kind of stopping suddenly right at the end, I want it to kind of ease off. I just want it to ease off it, so it's not going stop. I want it to go and that's what I'm going to get. So what I do is, all I do is I go to the keyframe that I'd like to affect. I right click it, I go to keyframe assistant, and then I go to easy ease in. Just click that, then it makes this little arrow symbol here. So let's see how that looks. Yep, so as you can see, the ellipsis at the end, it kind of slowly types on right at the end, just to give a, I think it gives it a sense of having a bit more weight and realism to it, so it's not all too digital, it's got a little bit more of an organic feel to it. I feel like we need more stuff going on, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go into here. Got this asset here, I might not use it. I just drew something I drew from earlier. It's just a bag. Good old bag. What's in the bag? Put a nice little bit of bag behind there. Maybe scale that down just a little bit. Stick it over to the side there. Maybe up a little bit so the contrast kind of doesn't conflict with the text, the white of the text. Bring it down just a bit. You know, use your arrow keys to kind of perfect the pixel positioning that you would like. There's nothing wrong with being a perfectionist. This might not be the final version as well. Like, the reason that we name our projects by version number is so that we can just keep making new versions, not deleting the old ones in case we just want to go back to the original or the older version, and then just take it from there. Okay, so I've got my bag. But my bag's looking a little bit flat. It's looking a bit two-dimensional. I mean, it's two-dimensional, but we just want to give it a little bit of shading, a little bit of lighting, just make it pop a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the layer of the bag. I'm going to right-click on it, go to layer styles, and then I'm going to go to bevel and emboss. Bevel and emboss is just here. Just click the down arrow for it. It's about here, look. And then just play with these settings until you find something that you like. You soften that lighting out a little bit. You usually have to go quite a way for that. Depth. How's that depth doing? I want it to be visible. You can also change the colours of these if you want to, the shadows and the highlights. But I would more just say change the percentages of them. I think you just get more of a kind of authentic feel for the lighting and the shadows. I find softer lighting, more subtle lighting, and more subtle shadows are where the authenticity comes through. There you go, that's the difference you get. And I think that looks quite good. Also, if you wanted to change the direction that the light and the shadows are coming from, there's angle over here. You just kind of drag it around until you find a spot where you think it's fitting. I'm probably going to have it come from this side because it feels, because we've got a lot more darker colours over this side, it makes more sense that you'd have, well, more shadow coming through and more light on this side where the lighter colours are. I think it just makes more sense. So there you go, there's our bag, looking pretty. What's in the bag? Oh, you can also do this to the text as well. You can add all those shadows like bevels and things to your as well. In fact, I might just do that. Just add a little drop shadow to the back of it, just to make it kind of stand out a little bit more from the back. There you go. And I won't do anything with it because I think that's just about right, just subtle enough for us. So I'll leave that as it is. Okay, so what do we got? So we got this, and it types on. It's taken a little bit longer now because we're showing this off at full quality, and obviously it's got to render all of these individual frames to show us what we've got. But I managed it. You've got a powerful enough computer, you can manage it. But if you don't have a powerful enough computer, you can just hit this drop down on the full bit here, and you can bring it down to like a half of the quality, third of the quality, quarter of the quality. It cuts down on the preview quality while you're working on it, but it doesn't cut down on the quality of when you export it. When you come to render it out from After Effects, it's a completely different, completely separate from this. So don't think it's going to affect the end result. It won't. It's just there to help you work. So I've just put it back to full quality. And I just want the bag to do something. Like, I don't know, I kind of want it to just whiz on or something. So something I'm going to do is I am going to drop down the bag settings. I'm going to close the layer styles because that's not what we're in for anymore. I'm going to go to transform settings here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this little stopwatch by position, because I want to change the position of the bag, but I want to do it with keyframes. So I want it to almost like come in from the side of screen. That's the kind of effect we're going for now. So if I start my keyframe there, that's the keyframe's already made. That's where it's going to stop. What I want it to do is just to get the keyframes made, I'm just going to drag this over off screen. And as you can see, it's just going to creep in like that. And now I can move these keyframes wherever I want and work out the timings as I like. Okay, so how's that looking? So the bag kind of stops there. So this is where we want to make use of our keyframes again. But this time I'm going to use the F9 hotkey just to get that done straight away. As you can see, F9 just changed it. Now it's going to render it through. There we go. Kind of just eases off at the end there. Much better. So we're just going to make it so the bag doesn't come in so kind of lifelessly like that. It does have an ease off now, which is much better, but we want to make a bit more of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change where this anchor point is, which is this little crosshair here. I'm just going to click on the pan behind, or the anchor point tool, as I call it. And I'm just going to move it down to the bottom of the bag, because I want it to make sense. I want it to make sense. I want this to come in like that. And I want it to stay the same as it was before. So here we go. It just kind of slides on in. Okay. And what I want it to do is I'm going to use the rotation tool just to drag that out a bit, take this back a little bit. Get this out a little bit more. Rotate it forwards just a tiny bit, just to make a little bit of an effect. Then we're just going to render this through. The bag's going to swing forward and it's going to lean back into place. So, there we go. That's quite nice. There we go. You see, it's all these little micro movements that will make an animation stand out. I mean, this is very basic motion tweening. Okay, so what's next? What can we do next? Okay, so next, I think I would like to go and get an asset of some kind. Draw that into assets. Let's see what this one looks like. Making sure it goes to the front. Here we go. Now we've got an asset here, got a nice little lens flare like J.J. Abrams would make him proud. To make this work the way you would like it to, you want to go to the little mode over here. You want to hit this normal drop down. Drop that down, because we're not normal. We're better than that. We're better than normal. Just go to add. And then here you go. You've got an additive lens flare. And if you want, you can scale it up. Bring it further in, bring it further out, depending on how intense you want it to be. It's all a case of just finding what you think works best for you. What's in the bag? So we've skipped ahead in time a little bit now, just so I could fine tune a few things. Instead of going for that lens flare that I had on before, I've now got this little bit of bokeh in the top corner. As you can see, this is the outline of where it is as a layer. What I've done is I've added a little circle mask to it using this tool up here. You can like, if I say highlight like the bag, I can just like circle, it will show what's in the circle, or if I hit the inverted, it'll show what's outside of that circle, just as an example. And that's pretty much where I've done the ellipsis here, and I've like feathered the edges so that it gives a more kind of realistic effect. And also I've put like a film grain effect over the top of it, just to give it a little bit of an organic filmic feel. Makes the blue textures pop a bit more, I think, and look a bit more animated and lively. Right, so down here I've got a subtitle, which is going to be the name of our guest. And you might have guessed it, it's Luke Dre. So what I want to do with the Luke Dre title is that I would like to make it a 3D asset. So all I need to do in order to do that is I just go over to the layer down here, and then I go to this little box icon here, and I just click that, so it's got a box. And what that does is that enables the Z axis. We've obviously got a Y and an X on a 2D layer, but what makes it 3D is the Z axis. So now you can see I can like zoom it in and out and things like that. But I'm not doing it just so that I can zoom in and out. What I want to do is I want to make this text 3D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go drop down here, and then I'm going to go to geometry options. Top tip, if the geometry options is not available when you come around to doing this, just go to your composition settings, right click, composition settings. And then what you want to do is go to 3D renderer and make sure that's on Cinema 4D. You've got these 3 options, but make sure it's on Cinema 4D, because then it'll allow you to have the geometry options. And then what we want to do is we want to use Extrusion Depth to enable the 3 dimensions of this beautiful little bit of text on screen. So I'll just bring that up to 100. And you might have noticed it you can kind of see it on the edges here a little bit. If I rotate this, if I hold W, I can just rotate it a little bit more for you. And there you go. So what I'm going to do is, it's all white, I want to add a little bit of shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to animate, just here on the text layer, hit this little arrow, and you want to go to side, and you want to go color, and you want to go to, let's go to brightness, because that's more or less what we want to do, and we want to bring that down into the negatives. So it goes nice and shadowy, nice and dark. I'll tell you what, that's not working for me. So let's scrap that. Get rid of that, and let's try again. Let's go to side, color, and let's go to RGB, because now we can actually choose the color. I wasn't really a fan of the gray that it was giving us, so we're going to use a color instead. And I think more blue, can't go wrong with blue. It's a very blue palette, so let's just keep going blue. Let's blue it up, blue it out of proportion, and let's just bring it into a more desaturated kind of blue. That looks okay to me. Very subtle. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to do a little, let's see what this looks like in medium. I'm going to see what it looks like when it's bolder. You see, that's more dynamic. I'm going to go with that for this one. Maybe they make the text a little bit bigger as well. Maybe just like 350, something like that. Oh, come on, 350. Thank you. So now I'm going to just like collapse the text bit, collapse geometry, and go to transform. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hit position, because this is going to be our end position, don't forget. So we want to hit that first, then we want to dial backwards in time, maybe to about when this is just about here, maybe like half a second in. What's in the bag? Ellipsis. So about a second and a half in. And we're going to grab our Z axis, and we're just going to bring it all the way out of frame, just drag it all the way back. And now what that does, it's just going to fall back into place like that. And obviously, it's gospel to you all now. We want to ease in, so it doesn't just kind of slap back. We want it to kind of softly sit into place. Okay, something not quite right about it, but that's probably to do with this line here. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this little circle here, because this is like a little handlebar. We're just going to curve this line, and this line, each of these little dots along here is where each of the keyframes are between these two. These are the frames between these two keyframes. Sorry, I nearly got mixed up there. And we're just going to drag this line out and just create a little bit of a curve. As you can see now, it's going to go up a little bit, and that's all good there. All right. So I think that looks good to me. Now, something I would really like to see is that as it lands, we're going to get a little bit of like maybe just a little bit of a flash or something. Make it a little bit more interesting and exciting. Let's lock all of these off so we can't alter them in any way and break our animation. Let's save it as well. Always Control S, always Control S. You never know when it's going to crash on you. We're going to make an adjustment layer. And the adjustment layer goes into the solids. Remember what I told you is that this solids bin will contain all of your solids and all of your adjustment layers. You don't need to keep creating new ones. You can just keep dragging and recycling all of them. If you make too many, it just looks messy. Of course, I'm not sure what much of a difference it makes. It might slow down your processing power later down the line if you've made like thousands of them. But I mean, I've never gone that far, so I couldn't really tell you. Right. So, adjustment layer is at the top here. Now, the purpose of an adjustment layer is that it affects everything that is below it. Anything that's above it, it will not affect, but everything below it, it will. And what you do with an adjustment layer is you find an effect and then you slap it on there. So if you go to effects and drop down here, you've got loads of options. Generate, and let's go for light rays. And what light rays will allow us to do is that it will give us this amazing effect whereby, yeah, as you can see, it's pretty cool. So what I want to do is for Loot Ray, if I just hit U on that layer, it will show me the keyframes. If I lock it again, just so I'm safe. And then I'm gonna go to the end keyframe. And this, I'm gonna have this effect here like that in the adjustment layer. So let's have intensity, radius and warp softness, and then we're going to here, U on here, so I can see the keyframes on this one. Dial it back. I want to make it go kablamo, and then I want it to like fade out into nothing. So we'll just go intensity all the way down to nothing. Radius to that, warp to that. Just so it changes and alters a little bit. There you go. But it's always there, as you can see. And I think the quickest way to do this is that you just highlight the layer that you want and you go Control-Shift-D or Command-Shift-D if you're on a Mac. What that does is it splits the layer in half, and then you can just delete the part of it that you don't want, because basically light is so quick, we don't need to ease it in, it just needs to pop on and go. So, just a little twinkle, wing, and there you go. I think that's, yeah, I think this is shaping up quite nicely. I just watch it over and over again to see if there is anything that I would change about it. And I think there is some more work to be done to this one, but I think this is a fair place to leave it for today. There's so much to learn about After Effects. It really is just a palette of things with lots of tools that seem to do very specific things, but you can seem to just use your imagination and make of them what you will. I will be making more kind of specific videos, more smaller, shorter, more tailored to specific tools videos in the future. So keep an eye out for them. Of course, leave a like and subscribe so that you can stay in tune with those. And if you've got any ideas of anything that you would like to know about in After Effects in the future, then please leave it in the comment section below. I will be reading them for ideas because there's so much to cover. I could really do with some backup from you guys so that I know what I need to be looking at. And maybe I'll learn something along the way too. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I've been Shawn Briggs. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.